There we are. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Great stuff. I just found out that I gave you your first job on television. Did you know that?
Yeah, I was in the Footlights, which is this club at Cambridge, and myself and Hugh Laurie and Emma Thompson were all members of it, and it was like I had to spend like a Tuesday afternoon, people coming and offering sketches, and then in the evening, I'd accept them and say, yes, that's good, or that's not good. And we had rather a small number, so I hastily wrote a number of quick visual sketches known as quickies. And one of them was someone having a pee, and then it's all mimed, obviously, it's on a stage smaller than this. Then he washes his hands, and then he goes, and there's no towel, and he's looking around and can't think what to do. And there's a man standing there, so he knees him in the groin, and the fellow goes, and he just dries his hands. It's completely. But it was great because I got this letter from John Lloyd, the producer of Not the 9 O'Clock News, which had just become the cult-most program on TV, the most successful and exciting comedy show on television, asking if they could use this particular quickie. And I, of course, immediately said yes. And then I told Hugh, who was president of the Footlights, and he said, "You bloody idiot, that means we can't now use it in our show." And of course, it never occurred to me, because I just wanted to see my name on the screen.
I may have signed the letter, but I shouldn't take credit. It was Marcus Mortimer.
Marcus Mortimer.
Who was the AFM who spotted the thing.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if this might help tie some things together, because I thought it was a model, a miraculous model, Stephen, of a non-ad hominem speech that he managed to avoid, hurting anybody's feelings at all. And I'm much ruder than that. But I just put it like this, that in those days, with Not the 9 O'Clock News, which I was 27 when I got that job, in the intervening, whatever it is, 30-odd years, I produced Blackadder, as you know, and Spitting Image and QI, as well as Not the 9 O'Clock News. In the 8 years since we started QI together, we have every year pitched programs to television companies. We have yet to have one success. I think that's odd.
Yes, I guess it is. It's very, when you say we, you're talking about you and others, not you and me.
The people behind QI.
Yeah, the people behind QI, yes. I suppose it is. It is very difficult when it sounds like an old person's bitter whinge. I'm not saying that's what you do. You have...
It is.
There is no comedy producer with a greater pedigree than you. To go from Not 9 O'Clock News to Spitting Image to Blackadder to QI is an extraordinary thing, and there is no one who comes close. And therefore, you might have every reason to believe at least they would give you a meeting and that they would trust your judgment. Because I think it's right in saying that each one of those programs had a very rocky start. That is the nature of all good comedy. It's difficult, and it doesn't immediately take off. Blackadder, the first, the Blackadder was more or less a disaster, wasn't it? And it was only just by the skin of your teeth that you got John Howard Davis and others to agree to Blackadder 2. No one is saying that you should put the lunatics in charge of the asylum. We all know it's a serious, grim world, that money has to be more accountable, and that. But it's not about whether there are creative writers. That's what I meant in the lecture. It's a producer class. That is what I see as missing. Not because they aren't talented producers, and I'm certainly not saying they're not intelligent or resourceful or indeed imaginative, but I suspect they are simply lacking in confidence. They just don't have the confidence that any really remarkable suggestion they make will be accepted. Now, the BBC, if they were here, and let's face it, most of us always think of the BBC when we talk of broadcasting, they would point to BBC Three, and they would point to a recent list of successes in comedy, for example, from Little Britain and Gavin and Stacey, and they would say, what more could you possibly expect us to do? And you're right, these are very successful, but they are also unbelievably balkanized. They are set into a particular demographic. This is what I mean by television not being the nation's fireplace. It's a house, and those programs are the slightly embarrassing adolescent child's bedroom with the no entry sign on it, the one who wears black T-shirts and is a bit weird. And that's programming for him. And then there's programming for a rather powdery grandmother who likes Zoe Wanamaker and Robert Lindsay in My Family, and that's lovely. And that's fine, great. What I would say, if I wanted to be angry, if I wanted to bluster, I would say infantilism is the problem. the number of times I turn on the television and I think, gosh, children's television's got on. That's a really good art documentary about that paint. Oh my God, it's 9 o'clock in the evening. This is for grown-ups? It's just shocking. I mean, the only dramas the BBC will boast about are Merlin and Doctor Who, which are fine, but they're children's programmes. They're not for adults. And they're very good children's programmes, don't get me wrong. They're wonderfully written, marvellously presented, but they are not for adults. They are like a chicken nugget. It's delicious. Every now and again, we all like a chicken nugget. Every now and again. But if you are an adult, you want something surprising, savoury, sharp, unusual, cosmopolitan, alien, challenging, complex, ambiguous, possibly even slightly disturbing and wrong. You want to try those things, because that's what being adult means. And we live in an infantilized world where the food of children, you know, sort of mixed up fruit and ice cream as a drink, and pappy chicken and pappy beef in white bread buns with sugared sauces and salt and fat, is now the food for adults as well. Oh hell, I'll have that. You know, people have that in front of the television, and the television gives them the same thing back. It's children's television. It's entirely infantilized. It's not grown up. Now, I'm not saying that all television should be pompous, it should be academic, it should be intellectual, none of those things. But it ought to surprise and to astonish and to make us feel perhaps the possibility there is a world outside that we know nothing of, to provoke us, to provoke in the best sense as well as sometimes the worst sense, to surprise us, to outrage us. Instead of which, because it's children, it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. He's a villain or he's a hero. Here's a drama series, and within the first 5 minutes, I know he's like that because he would have had problems at home. She's like that because, you know, she's lost her faith. He's like that because his wife doesn't understand him. You know, it's just, everything is just given to you. Nothing is, you know, nothing is given time. And we're so used to laughing at Americans because they are so vulgar, aren't they, and so stupid. You watch some good American TV, and they give it time, and they give it maturity, and they give it surprise and shock and adulthood. Not shock in the cheap, childish sense, but in an emotional and impactful way. And I think, and I've always believed that the more television trusts that a British audience are not children, are not indeed the kind of hysterical people who write or email or leave weird messages on points of view. More we trust that there is genuine intelligence and an appetite for something new there, the better our television will be. That's really what I think.
Okay. I discovered through there's a network of former QI elves who work all over television now. Have moved on to do various things, some of whom become very successful quite young, partly because the way they're trained or taught or encouraged to be at QI is to say what they think, and to say, and not to try and guess what we like.
Yeah.
And so they are, in some areas of development, considered geniuses, because they say what normal people think and say, which is not the way many people at that low level dare behave, lest their 3-month contract be not reviewed.
This is a grown-up world. Just 2 days ago, I was doing a program, and it was for an arts channel, I have to say. This person came up to me, and the thing that astonished me was that she didn't blush or giggle or go, "I know, isn't it ridiculous?" She went, "Hi, I'm the celebrity booker," and I was being interviewed on an arts program. And what was I supposed to say? "Thank you for booking me as a celebrity." It was just, that's the world we live in. "Hi, I'm your celebrity booker."
Well,
what's that even mean? I'm glad she's got a job, and I'm really happy, but it's just so strange.
The point I was going to pick up on, Stephen, by way of one of this network of elves said to me through the grapevine that they were planning in the BBC to make a kind of QI for kids.
Right.
And I said, but there already is one of those.
Well,
it's called QI.
Yeah, I mean,
because we don't make
part
a
of our
program for anyone.
most enthusiastic constituency.
Our children.
Yeah, and I know it's the kind of program I certainly would have liked when I was 12, 10 even, you know.
We had Daniel Radcliffe on a special edition of QI the other night, and the green room afterwards was full of 9-year-old and 11-year-old girls, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was their perfect evening out because they had Harry Potter and QI in the same box.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you about this is, I think the difference between when I first worked in telly in the 80s and now is, in those days, we were encouraged and pushed to make telly for ourselves. We tried to make programs that we would like to watch, radio shows that we would like to listen to. And now there's this Chinese wall.
Exactly, that presumption that the British public won't like it. And no, the British public want to see this. On the one hand, you give them all kinds of compliance issues and boxes that have to be ticked, and I'm sure for very good reasons, which everyone knows the public don't want. This is just a waste of time. I had a friend, literally, who directed an episode of Spooks, which is a jolly successful spy drama where every week somebody has to drive very, very fast to stop London being blown up by either a biological or a nuclear bomb or something similar. And anyway, he was directing it, and he was telling the actor to get in like that and saying, and then just, we'll accelerate off, we'll keep the camera still, and you'll go out of shot. We might do another one in which we pan with you. And then somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, well, he's got to put his seatbelt on. He said he's got to drive, he's got no time, he's got to save London from you, and he's got to, no, he must. It's an absolute... All right, so somehow, okay, as you go, just put your hand there and start to move it, and we'll pan off. When we next see you, you'll have it on, right? So then there's a scene where he has to get on his mobile phone or walkie-talkie, and he can't be driving and using his mobile. He's going to save London. No, he can't. No, he absolutely must stop and pull in. Look, there's an earlier scene where he shot someone in the face. So he's allowed to shoot people in the face, but he's not allowed to talk on the telephone to save 6.5 million people. No, it's written down there in the risk assessment sheet, can you see? And you signed off on it, because you don't sign things, you sign off on them. And that's what happened. There is no possible excuse, defense, or claim that you can make that justifies such absurdity. And that's one reason for fear. And to that has been added, of course, the Brand Ross disaster, which has sent fear through every other aspect of programming, as we know in QI. You can't now bleep. So if someone swears, you can't then bleep it, because that's cheating. That's sort of having your cake and you're sort of swearing, but even though no one can see what the word is, you still can't bleep. It's like telling the Vatican they can't even have fig leaves. What? But that's what's happened. So there's that, you know. And on the other hand, there's, as you say, there's the executive, the commissioner, say, God, I love this. It's brilliant, it's funny, it's original, but it's a bit, well, we don't know where this person comes from. Yes, that's right. When you meet people, you don't know where they come from. They don't explain themselves in the first quarter of an hour. You don't flash back into their dreams where they were abused by a nanny or whatever. God, you can feel pity for people who are difficult. Look at Cracker. You know, you can feel pity for a man who treats everybody abominably. It's such a pity.
It's this thing that the things flipped about is, I think in the 80s you mentioned the the people who write in about complaining about things, and I remember the very first episode of Not the 9 O'Clock News, we did have 30 phone complaints, and we jammed the switchboard, and I was summoned in to see my head of department, Jimmy Gilbert, who said, right, you've got 30 complaints, you've jammed the switchboard, you're a disgrace, it should have been 60, get out.